The Nagasena Bhiksu Sutra. Chapter 12. Discussion between Ayupala and King Menander. At that time, the king was playing games outside the capital, and his fourfold army was camped outside. The king was proud and thought to himself, "I am the king, and know the heretical doctrines of 96 varieties. Whomsoever asks whatsoever questions, I could guess the meaning of the words scarcely uttered." The king said to his minister beside him, "The day is yet young. It would be no use getting back so early. Is there any learned religious teacher or shramana who would be able to discuss doctrines with me?" The ministers named Devamantiya and Mankura, who were beside the king, said, "There is a shramana called Ayupala with profound learning in the doctrines. He would be able to discuss religious doctrines with your excellence." So the king asked the ministers Devamantiya and Mankura to invite him. Devamantiya and Mankura went to invite the monk and said to him, "The king wishes to meet you." Ayupala said, "Very good. If the king wants to meet me, he should come himself. I will not go." Devamantiya and Mankura went back and told the king what had happened. The king, attended by the 500 cavalrymen, mounted his royal chariot and proceeded to the monastery where Ayupala lived. He exchanged greetings and compliments of friendship and courtesy with Ayupala and took his seat. The 500 cavalrymen also took their seats. The king asked Ayupala, "For what purpose, Ayupala, have you renounced the world, after abandoning your wife and children, shaving your hair and beard, donning the kasaya robe, and becoming a shramana? What kind of path are you seeking?" Ayupala replied to the king, "We study the Buddha's teaching and practice righteousness. So we obtain happiness in this life as well as in the next life. Thus we have shaved our hair and beard and become shramanas by donning the kasaya robes." "Is there any layman," the king asked Ayupala, "who has wife and children and lives in accordance with righteousness, who could obtain happiness now, here, and hereafter?" "Yes, any layman who has a wife and children and lives in accordance with righteousness could also obtain happiness now, here, and hereafter." Then the king said, "If a layman who has a wife and children and lives in accordance with righteousness can also obtain happiness now, here, and hereafter, then what is the use of renouncing the world, Ayupala, having to abandon your wife and children, shave your hair and beard to become a shramana by donning the kasaya robe?" Ayupala was silent and had not a word to say in reply to the king. Some ministers said, "This shramana is of great learning and wisdom. It is because of lack of time that he could not make rejoinder." Therefore the king's men raised their hands and cried, "The king is the winner! The king is the winner!" Ayupala admitted defeat by remaining silent. The king looked around to the upasakas and saw that there was no expression of shame on the faces of the upasakas. It occurred to the king himself, "These upasakas have no expression of shame on their faces. Is there another learned shramana who would be able to discuss the doctrine with me?" So the king asked Devamantiya, "Is there any shramana who would be able to discuss the doctrine and the path with me?"